Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showcasing two more Edge of Fate builds. This time they're going to be two darkness builds, so Stasis and Strand. So the first one, we're going to be using the new Edge of Fate exotic from completing the legendary campaign Moirai, which has the perk Web Catcher. Threaded Spike can bounce to tangles, detonating them and returning immediately. Tangles detonated by Threaded Spike are rewoven and retrieved by it. Catches without a tangle refund extra melee energy. So, I'll demonstrate that in a minute, because sometimes it can be kind of confusing. Threaded Spike is the melee, if you didn't know. So, of course, we're going to be using Strand, and we're going to be using the exotic Barrow Dyad. We're mainly using this because it's a featured exotic, and it also goes really well with this build. So the good thing about using a featured exotic and all featured or new armor is that the armor, you get a damage resist buff, and then for using Barrow Dyad, you get 10% weapon damage buff. So Barrow Dyad is going to be a lot better than before since it'll be doing more damage. So for the Strand subclass, we're going to be using Gambler's Dodge to get our melee quickly, which they did buff, so you don't have to be you don't have to be near enemies anymore to use it. And then Shackle Grenade, so we can suspend enemies, and that makes it easier to make tangles, since defeating a suspended enemy creates a tangle. You could also use Threadlings or Grapple Grenade, because those can make tangles. I just find Shackle Grenade suspends a lot of targets, so it's easier. And it can stun unstoppable champions. For aspects, we're going to be using Widow's Silk and Whirling Maelstrom. So this gives us an additional grenade charge, and if you're using grapple, then it makes a grapple tangle at the wherever you grapple. And then here we have destroying a tangle will weave a violent writhing mass of strand fibers. The strand mass seeks out and damages targets, emitting unraveling projectiles when it defeats them. So pretty much it's just a strand tornado tangle that unravels stuff. And the good thing about this is that you can grapple to it. So if you have grapple on, and if you grapple to a tangle, it'll give your grapple back. So you can grapple to this, grapple melee, and then keep grappling. But like I said, I use Shackle Grenade for the suspend. Fragments, we're gonna have Thread of Fury, damaging targets with a tangle grants melee energy. Thread of Propagation, powered melee final blows grant your strand weapons unraveling rounds. So that'll be even better. Unraveling rounds are barrier piercing, and they can also create tangles upon defeat. Thread of Rebirth, strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a threadling. You'll see why I use that in a second. And then Thread of Evolution, threadlings travel farther and deal additional damage. So the reason I have Thread of Rebirth is because if you have the Barrow Dyad Catalyst, if you have Hatchling, then Precision Final Blows or rapidly defeating targets with this weapon spawns a threadling at the target's location. Thread of Rebirth makes it so you can also spawn threadlings from just normal kills. It's just a chance though. So Hatchling makes this really good. Some people use target lock on this weapon because it generates blight as it fires, but I like to use Hatchling, especially for this build. If you don't have Barrow Dyad or don't have the Catalyst, you'll just have to wait for it to come to the portal and then get it then. So my other two weapons, really, it doesn't matter what energy weapon you use. I'm just using this because it works good for this build. I've got Psycho Pump, the only energy weapon area denial grenade launcher. It's got Pugilist Demolitionist. Pugilist is good because melee damage improves this weapon's handling and kills generate melee energy. And then Demolitionist is the same, but kills generate grenade energy, and activating your grenade reloads this weapon. And then the origin trait doesn't really matter that much. For weapon mods, I would use Tactical if you have it enhanced, so you get better reload speed and handling. And then for heavy weapon, I have Pro Memoria from the Final Shape. This is craftable, I have it crafted. My role that I crafted is Reconstruction and Dragonfly. And then the origin trait is that kills generate a small amount of super energy. So that can help a lot if you find yourself not getting your super a lot. And the good thing about Reconstruction is that this is a 600 RPM machine gun, so it shoots very fast. So Reconstruction makes it so you have so much ammo that you won't have to worry about it shooting that fast and reloading all the time. So for armor, we did a melee mod for all the armor. On the helmet, I have Harmonic Siphon, so Strand, Hands On, and then Arc Siphon for Psycho Pump. Gauntlets, I have Heavy Handed, Impact Induction, and then Focusing Strike. For the chest piece, I have Melee, Strand Ammo Generation, Solar Ammo Generation, and another Strand Ammo Generation. This Solar can be changed to Arc. I had it on Solar because I was using a Solar weapon, but now I'm using an Arc weapon, so. Leg armor, I've got Insulation, Strand, and Arc Weapon Surge. And then class item, I just have Bomber, Reaper, and then Time Dilation. So, I find for this build, I think you should get Brawler archetypes of armor, because that gives you melee and health. Health is a very important stat, especially for hunters, because hunters don't have very good survivability. And health stat makes it so you get 70 health per orb if you have it at 100 or higher. And then 10% flinch resistance too. And then melee, I have mine at 151, so that's a 50-second cooldown. And then you get more melee energy from all sources, and it increases the damage by 15%. So for the artifact, for all my builds, I'm going to use the same 3 champion artifact mods: Anti-Barrier Scout and Pulse, Unstoppable Sidearm and Hand Cannon, and Overload Rapid Fire. These are just so good because they're so versatile. You can really use anything with these. You don't even need the Unstoppable Sniper or Overload Shotgun, because Anti-Barrier Scout and Pulse, there is a new rocket assisted pulse rifle if you don't want to run double primary. And then Unstoppable Sidearm and Hand Cannon, there's also a rocket sidearm. And then Overload Rapid Fire is auto rifles and SMGs, which Choir of One is an auto rifle that uses special ammo. So even though all of these are mainly primary ammo weapons, you don't have to run double primaries if you're going for champions, because there's exotics or normal weapons that use special ammo. So, other perks, I'm going to have Flame, Fiber, and Freeze. Don't really use it for this build, but I'll use it for the next build. This artifact works for the build I'm showing right now, and the build I'm going to show later. Then we've got one with Frost, Fever and Chill, then Refresh Threads. That'll help with getting melee energy, or class ability energy, or grenade, depending on which has the energy. And then threaded blast, which is very good for this build. Cauterized darkness. Elemental coalescence, so you have a chance to make a tangle. And then elemental overdrive. I only have 11 artifact unlocks, so once you get 12 you can do either shield crush or tangled web. Those are two good ones for these builds, or frigid glare, but I find shield crush is good because it works with strand, stasis, void, arc, and solar, so every subclass. And then elemental overdrive just gives you increased damage to your weapons. So to demonstrate this build, instead of using it on a boss, this is more ad clear build, because it does require kills to make tangles, of course. So I'll demonstrate here. So to make a tangle, I'll just throw a shackle grenade, kill an enemy, and then instead of shooting the tangle or going to pick it up like you usually would, what you're going to do is throw your melee at it, and then catch the melee, and it'll give you another tangle. So that's 2 tangles instead of 1. And then you can let those go around, and that made another tangle, so I can do the same thing. Catch it. That's 4 tangles on the field. And then there is a tangle cooldown. It just ended, so you can have even more tangles. So this build is just amazing for ad clear, no matter if it's orange bars, red bars, anything, because you can just generate a ton of tangles. And it does give you a ton of melee energy back if you catch it and hit a tangle first. Or if you don't hit a tangle and catch it, it'll give you more. I only had to use my shackle grenade once, and I made 6 tangles. And I only used my dodge once, which I only have a 57 stat, so it has a 37-second cooldown. It has a 14-second cooldown if you have it 100 or higher. So if you think you're doing good with melee stat, I would do secondary as class. So that was the Strand build. Next, I'm going to show you a stasis prismatic build, stasis based prismatic build. This is using Mask of Fealty. I'm gonna start showing builds with featured exotics because, one, they're good, and 2, it gives more damage resist. So here, Mask of Fealty, we have Withering Blade hits and bounces, create a small stasis crystal, and refund a portion of melee energy. Using Withering Blade to shatter crystals or frozen targets releases a spread of Withering Blades. And then we're going to be using the exotic Agar Scepter, which I have not infused. But you don't need the catalyst. The catalyst for Agar Scepter I think isn't really good unless you don't use your super much. Pretty much, this is just an overpowered trace rifle. You shoot something, kill it, it freezes everything around it. It says slowing burst, but it pretty much freezes. And then stasis final blows, reload the weapon from reserves. For prismatic, we're going to be on stasis, silence and squall, and then gambler's dodge, withering blade, and then swarm grenade. For aspects, we have winter's shroud and gunpowder gamble. This is a stasis and solar build, mainly stasis though. So we've got facet of command. So this will just buff your weapons when you freeze targets, and it'll create stasis shards when you kill frozen targets. Facet of ruin. So your gunpowder gamble will be bigger, and shattering targets or crystals will increase the size and damage. Facet of honor. So you have more transcendence energy from collecting stasis shards or fire sprites. Then passive balance, so you get melee and grenade energy. I use this on almost every one of my prismatic builds. You see it in my other videos too. And then passive awakening, so you get even more elemental pickups. So we're gonna be using, like I said, Agra's Scepter, and this is also a featured exotic, which means it does 10% more damage, just like Barrow Dyad. And then we're gonna use the new Solar Heavy Burst Hand Cannon, Agape. This is the curated role because it's a tier 4. So I have the curated role Outlaw and Burning Ambition, which is still good. Burning Ambition is a very good perk. I talked about that in the last video. It's one of my new favorite perks. And then I've enhanced Backup Mag. I also have Ulterior Observation, Stasis Machine Gun from Edge of Fate. I don't have the best roll. This might be the worst roll, but this can roll with some good rolls. I'm not sure if it can roll with Headstone, but if it can, that's what you're going to want on this for more Stasis Crystals. And then armor, we have mainly melee mod for all the armor. Thermodynamic Siphon, so you get Solar and Stasis Siphon. Special Ammo Finder, and then Harmonic Siphon. For gauntlets, we have Firepower, Momentum Transfer, and then Impact Induction. Chest armor, we have double Stasis Ammo Generation and Solar Ammo Generation. Boots, we have Invigoration, Stasis Weapon Surge, and Solar Weapon Surge. And then class item, we have Outreach, Time Dilation, and Powerful Attraction. So the artifact mods are all the same, just as the last build. And then, if you guys were wondering how to get tier 4 loot like I have, this tier 4 hand cannon, this is a curated role. So in order to get this, you have to do 4 different missions on Fabled difficulty from Edge of Fate. And once you launch Fabled difficulty and go into the spawn area, it'll give you the quest. And then after you do those missions and 2 other secret mini missions, you just gotta do 2 little things in Kepler. You can get this hand cannon. I'm not sure if it's the same role for everyone, but I'm pretty sure it is. Because if it was a normal tier 4, then it would have 2 perks instead of 1. And it would have 2 magazines and barrels. And then the leg armor. In order to get the leg armor, it's not like I chose the leg armor, it was a random drop. So if you go to the portal, latest expansion, Kepler, and then over here there's weekly missions. This week, it is Commencement. I've already done this one. And then Charge. So if you look here, it says Challenges. Weekly mission, Seasonal bonus powerful gear. So this gives you a piece of tier 4 armor. I'm not sure if you can get tier 4 weapons too, but I got tier 4 leg armor from doing a mission. So it's definitely worth it. It is pretty tough. You have to do it on Mythic. So I would recommend getting a fire team, but you can do that 2 missions a week, 2 different missions, You can only do each mission once a week to get tier 4, otherwise it's tier 3. But that is a good way to get tier 4 armor. That's how I got these really good boots. I feel like the archetype doesn't really matter since it's tier 4. Like, I don't usually use Paragon, but the tertiary trait was health and it's 20. The tertiary trait is 20 on tier 4. Primary is 30 and secondary is 25. Then I have it mastered, so 5 for all the other ones. So to demonstrate this, I'll go back in the shooting range. So I've got ads lined up again. Let me just rally. So pretty much, as you can see, you throw a withering blade, makes a stasis crystal, freezes them, and then you can just shatter, and then keep doing that. You can see there's a ton of stasis crystals now. And then you got your gunpowder gamble from that, so you can throw that, ignite a ton of enemies, keep shooting him. And then Agar Scepter, you can see this freezes nearby enemies. And then you can gunpowder gamble. And then there's just a ton of stasis shards here. So I'm going to demonstrate it on a boss. It is mainly ad clear, but you can use it for bosses. So you throw your grenade, throw some melees. And then with the Agar Scepter Catalyst, you can turn this mode on. And then just do some more damage. And freeze and slow. And it gives you a bigger magazine too. And then I find that this hand cannon works best against scorched targets because of burning ambition. But if you dump 2 mags into an enemy, it will cause an ignition. So even if they're not scorched, you can just hit them with 2 mags of this weapon, and they'll ignite. I think if they're already scorched, it's 1 mag, maybe like 1 and then a little bit more. But we can test this on some tougher enemies too. So like if you're doing ag clear in a tougher mission, you'll see some orange bars. So if you want, you can just throw your super. Throw some melees. And then this melee does a lot more damage now. And then Transcendence. Since the Transcendence grenade is stasis and solar, it works perfect for this build. So you can just keep using that, and then freeze even more enemies. So that was the stasis build, stasis / prismatic, stasis based build. For those of you wondering, because of Tuesday's update, they nerfed 3rd iteration, which was my first video this expansion. I showed 2 builds. One was with 3rd iteration because it was so overpowered, and they recently nerfed it. I thought they were going to nerf it a little so it would still be usable, but I feel like they nerfed it so much that I stopped using it. So I think I'm going to start using it again when I get the catalyst, because the catalyst does make it a lot better, but it's not very good after the nerf. So I will show you a replacement, same build, just different weapons. So I was usually using third iteration on a boss. Like say I was in a fabled or mythic mission, I would take out third iteration and just melt a boss without like anything else. It would do better than my heavy weapons, but now that they nerfed it, I've started using some alternatives. So instead of third iteration, in the energy slot, I have Lotus Eater. This is the god roll. You don't have to have this, but destabilizing rounds, repulsor brace. Repulsor brace, you can also get reconstruction here, and destabilizing rounds you can get withering gaze, but I find destabilizing rounds works better. And then I would use Outbreak Perfected, because this is perfect for Aglier, perfect for boss damage, just like third iteration was. And now, I compared this to third iteration, and this does do more damage. So, you don't have to have the crafted one, but it would be nice. So, if you do have the crafted one, make sure you have rewind rounds. That makes it perfect for dealing with bosses. Better than third iteration. So, it's also a featured weapon, so it does 10% more damage. Then, if I go rally over here, I can reset the damage counter. And then I'll show one mag of this with rewind rounds against third iteration, which I need to grab out of my vault. So first I'll use Outbreak. I'm not going to use any abilities, no smoke bomb, no grenade, no super, just the weapon on its own. So one mag with rewind rounds and then one mag of third iteration. And I'll hit headshots most of the time, or all the time. So, the good thing about Outbreak Perfected is the more nanites on an enemy, the higher damage it does. So the longer you shoot, the more damage it'll do. And if you have more than one person running it, you'll do even more damage. So, you can see here, it is 5,245 damage. So we'll reset that. And then, we'll throw on some third iteration. So, I'm going to use it just as I did before the nerf, just one amalgamation round and then shoot with normal rounds, and then we'll see how much damage it does. That did 2,301. It used to do like 4 times that, so they nerfed it a lot. The good thing is, they nerfed the normal rounds, not amalgamation rounds, so those still do a ton of damage. But normal rounds, not so much. So I'll test it with just amalgamation rounds to show how much damage it does. But the problem with playing like this is it's a lot slower because you have to wait for it to charge every time. Whereas with Outbreak, you can just keep on shooting it, which it used to be the case with this, but after the nerf, you gotta play like this with it. So that did 1,000 more damage than Outbreak, and I think having to wait that long in between every shot can get pretty annoying. So I tend to use Outbreak now. The Catalyst, I'm not sure what it does, but if you get to rank 90, it'll unlock, and I've heard it's pretty good. So, apparently, it, like, makes it good even after the nerf. You just have to play like this. And then, I find just instead of waiting that long with third iteration, just use Outbreak Perfected at that point. You can just be so much more efficient, not having to reload as much. And if you do have it crafted, make sure you have everything I have here. Disease Vector, Rewind Rounds. The good thing is, this is not just for boss damage, it's ad clear too. So if I were to throw down some ads, some orange bars, I can just kill these guys super easily with Outbreak. And then if I do some smaller enemies, in case you're not doing tough activities and you still want to ad clear with this, you can still ad clear very quickly. And when they die with nanites attached to them, they start tracking to other enemies. So now, other enemies are taking damage without me even shooting them. And it works from far away too. The good thing about Outbreak Perfected is that because the artifact mod has anti-barrier scout impulse, that makes it so if you're fighting, let's say, a Hydra, you can just non-stop shoot it and it'll just go right through the shield. The same is for third iteration, since it's a scout rifle, so either one would work really. It's just I prefer Outbreak. And if you are a Titan, there's a combo with Peacekeepers and Barodia that works pretty well, but that's not Barrier and that's also on Titan. So I might start doing some Warlock and Titan builds. Let me know if you want to do that. I can compare some builds and actual activities if you want, if you don't want to just see them in the shooting range. But other than that, that's all, and subscribe for more content. Have a good one.